Hello, I'm Jerry Lintner, and this is State of the Town, a monthly show when we sit with our first selectman, Lisa Heavner, and get brought up to date on the state of the town. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
Well, I am, what shall I say, all on tenter hooks?
Are you?
Well, yeah, I read in the paper that for the first time in 8 years, we're having a tax increase.
Well, I don't know that that's true.
Oh, well, we have to vote on it.
Well, not even that. So what I did is I presented my budget, which
Yeah.
is an expenditure budget, right?
Okay.
And tax increases are impacted not only by what a town spends, but how much revenue is coming in.
Right.
And that revenue can come in the form of grand list growth and aid from the state, right?
Yeah, so why did you let them tear down the Hartford building?
Well, they haven't done that yet, but that's part of their plan. They have a master plan that they're doing.
And then we're going to get lots of tax revenue from what they developed there.
We actually have lots of things on the horizon that are coming up in terms of
Well,
development.
I want to congratulate you on that.
All right.
And then the other thing, and I just want to chat briefly because or cover briefly because we have some guests with an interesting story today. We want to spend a little more time than usual on that, but it's a 3.25?
3.75.
Okay, and so you present that to the Board of Selectmen.
I did that on Monday.
And then they agree or disagree, and then it goes to the Board of Finance?
That's right. So what it'll go to, we'll begin our budget discussions on Thursday, the 10th at 5:30, and then go on Saturday all day, beginning at 8 a.m. And what that does...
And those are where if people want to storm the
they're
castle.
in the main meeting room.
Okay.
So, but one of the things that it's really important for residents to know, the percent of budget increase does not always correlate with the tax increase.
That's what I was going to say, because then the mill rate is part of it, right?
Right. So there are lots of things that go into the mill rate, and one is revenue.
Okay.
So we are fortunate to have had grand list growth, the most we've had in many years. So we're at 1.04 grand list growth.
I didn't see ours in the paper. I saw all the other towns.
The grand list growth?
I didn't see the article.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not retired, so I'm very busy. Maybe I
Right.
just missed it. So, but I was looking for it.
Well,
so we did have a growth.
We did.
That's great.
So so anytime you have a budget increase, that's offset by the growth increase, right? So that's
Okay.
one factor that's in there. There is right now from the state increased revenue that the town will be getting.
Really?
Yeah, there is.
How did that happen? I thought
Well, I think that's a great question to ask. Is that revenue
you
reliable?
traded in some chips.
No.
This was backroom stuff, right?
No.
Did any of the other towns get?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I wish I could take credit for it, but no. But so there are a couple things. There's a lot happening at the state that could impact Simsbury, and why I don't know what
Well,
the
with
tax
the
increase.
deficit, when are you moving?
I'm not moving. I
I've
love
gotten
Simsbury.
prices on the vans, and I'm looking at Panama maybe as a possibility.
Oh, well, we'd miss you, so
I
don't do
couldn't
that.
leave. Oh, yeah, right.
So don't do that.
No, I couldn't leave. We're rooted here. Love Simsbury. Okay, so we're off and doing 8 years without any increase. You know, over that time, I mean, that's really, really hard to
It
do.
is.
So you have to look at things, and like we know, the Flower Bridge has to be repainted and all, and
Right.
that's kind of cost an oodle and a boodle, and
Well,
that's not even the budget yet.
Well, kind of what we think about when we think about the budget is making sure you get value for every tax dollar you contribute. So are we using your money wisely and efficiently? And what cost-saving measures have we done? Because we don't want to waste your money.
Goodness, I feel like I'm in a presidential debate. The
You
way
do?
You're delivering this
Oh,
like
sorry.
Dynamically. It's like
Actually,
with
because
emphasis.
You know, the fact is, Jerry, I worked really hard on this, and we looked at the town staff, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, have all looked at every cost-saving measure out there.
So how many heads are rolling?
Yeah,
Who are we getting rid of?
We're not rolling any heads. What we're
Oh.
trying to do is, well, the fact is our
How many are retiring?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you
Early.
on that. No, I don't
No.
know early retirements. I don't know. I'd have to
Okay.
get back to you on that. But the bottom line is a couple of things we've done is we've tried to give our residents the time value of their money over the last 8 years because we know that they were struggling. And so we tried to really minimize the budget increase, and we did that successfully. If you look at the last 7 years, the average budget increase was 0.4849%, and that's post the Great Recession. Prior to the Great Recession, the average tax increase was about 5.75% a year. So if you look at, did the town adjust to changed economic?
Throwing money around. prior
No,
to
I
that
don't
recession.
know. I don't know that we were, but we did make a dramatic adjustment based on the economy and what our residents
Yeah.
were facing. And so this year, even though you're seeing a 375 budget increase, it doesn't necessarily mean a tax increase. That will depend a lot on what the state does.
Okay.
And, the state's troubles, will that trickle down to the municipalities? And I don't know. Do we think it might? Probably, because we're watching what's happening at the state.
And has it gone to the Board of Finance yet?
No, it has not. It hasn't even gone. We'll start deliberations with the Board of Selectmen on Thursday, and it's really important that the public let us know what you think.
On Thursday.
Yeah,
So, but we can sit in starting when? Friday?
Thursday.
Straight through Saturday.
No, we're not doing it on Friday, but you can come in
Oh,
Thursday
you're not doing it on Friday. Okay.
and Saturday during the day. And, everything in the budget is in this book, and we put this online, so any resident can see what I'm seeing. They can see what the Board of Selectmen is seeing. And one of the things I really encourage residents to do is read my budget message, because it's long. I was advised
Where
never.
do we read that?
It's online. It's on
I'm
the
gonna
budget
go right
page.
to that.
You should.
I will, absolutely. We all will, won't we? Yes,
Can I tell you why you should, though?
of course.
Well, here's the thing. Most people tell politicians don't write anything longer than a page because no one will pay attention to it.
You
So I-
really talk fast.
Sorry. So I took the opposite approach,
Uh-huh,
and I said, no, our residents are really smart,
that's true.
and I want to give them a detailed explanation of why the budget is what it is and what we can anticipate over time. So I wrote a 5-page budget message, but it does tell the story of
Okay,
where we
that's
are.
good. So then, it may or may not go to the Board of Finance in the form you proposed it to
Correct.
the Board of Selectmen. But then, we know who really runs this town,
The people.
the Board of Finance.
No, it's actually
So,
the people.
suppose the Board of Finance then turn it around and send it to all and you say, ha, 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 no way, get back to work. What do you do?
We get back to work.
Okay.
I mean, look, we
Now,
have
when
it
does that happen, the Board of Finance? Because we don't get to vote till like
in May.
May.
Yeah, so that it's a process that goes through. I actually don't have on the top of my head when we present to the Board of Finance, but the Board of Selectmen will be working on it this week and possibly into next week.
Okay, so the thing they used to have, like the workshops where there was
Those are the
ongoing
workshops.
public
Yeah.
audience, that's what's on Thursday and Saturday, right?
Yes.
Is there posted a schedule of what
Yes.
subjects are,
Yes.
and that's on the town site?
Yes.
And the town site is nice and new and more attractive
It
now?
is.
It is, I've been there.
Well, good.
It is, easier to use. Oh, yeah, I live there, I mean, this is my life.
But do we want to get to our guests? 'Cause
We absolutely do. Lisa, would you please introduce your guests?
Yes, we have with us today Cheryl Cook, who's one of the co-chairs of the Community for Care, and also one of my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen, and Woody Eddins, who is the other co-chair for the Community for Care. And we wanted to talk a little bit about this this commission and committee because I think it's very important. It's something that Woody and I started when I was on the Board of Selectmen together, and it's what it does. What it does is it brings together members of the town government, members of the Board of Education, members of the police department, social services, experts in the fields of mental health and addiction in the community, and parents and citizens who
What
have
do we need you
relationships.
for then, if they're going to do all of that?
Well, you know what? I think we need a whole community to address issues of
It
mental
takes
health.
a village.
It does. And now and one of the things we saw and why we did it is some people think it's just a school problem, or some people think it's just a home problem, but it's really all of our problems, and we need to make sure our left hand is talking with our right.
Okay, see, now you said everything that they were going to talk about, and they
No,
have nothing
they
left to
have
say.
so much to say.
Cheryl, Woody, hello. Very nice to meet you. I
Thank
know
you. Good
Cheryl.
to be here.
So, well, Board of Selectmen, everybody
Yes.
knows that, here in town. So for just a moment, Woody, other than being the son of a former president, what
Yes.
should we know about you?
Well, for 8 years now, I've had the blessing of being able to be pastor of the Simsbury United Methodist Church here in town.
Oh, okay.
And it's a wonderful town to live in, and we have
And where
great
were you
opportunities
before?
here. Before this, I was pastor of a church in Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So always in Connecticut or?
Both Long Island or Connecticut.
Ah,
I'm in the New York conference. They appoint us, tell us where to go, so we've bounced back and forth across Long Island Sound a few times.
I see.
But I like Connecticut better than Long Island, so we're
Ah.
staying here.
Okay.
Good
great.
answer.
And we
So
are
now,
thrilled.
how did you get roped into this?
Well, I sort of had the rope myself. I was one of the
Really?
people that got started when I saw people in as wonderful a community as this is. It is a community where people do have problems.
There's need, yes.
There are young people who get involved with drugs, and families are suddenly in crisis and they don't know where to turn. There are other issues where people have needs, they're desperate, they don't know where to turn. And so this is a committee that is helping inform people, educate people about what resources are there to help them in times of crisis.
Okay, well, let me back up a bit. Cheryl, did you
Yes.
have a choice of heading this up as a selectman? Or were
I
you-
absolutely did. In fact, when the committee first started, I sort of begged
Oh, really?
to be
Cool.
on it. I did. And at the time, Lisa was chairing and co-chairing with Woody. And, I've been involved with, the disability community, throughout my career. And I have seen, the effects of mental illness and drug addiction, in all sorts of groups. And I thought it was very important what this committee is trying to do. Bringing resources and programs to our residents to bring mental illness and addiction out into the light, so to speak, so that people can talk about it, can find options for care without feeling that stigma of having to say, I have a family member who has a problem.
You know, that is good because, I mean, our daughter grew up in this community and a lot of her friends became our friends over the years, and our house was where everybody, gathered. And so they would talk about friends with problems, and we knew some of those. And it was like you couldn't talk about it, and it like, even with their parents, because their parents were disallowing that it was so. I probably am considered more than flexible about my point of view. It's probably crazy. But in the case of drugs, I mean, it just, to me, to know what horrible, often irrevocable damage that can do to a young person, it's just always been a frustration. And I know the police, there was a policeman, I don't know if they still have that position. Part of his role was kind of representative to the youth. A few years ago, that guy now retired.
We do have community resource officers in the
Okay,
schools.
so let's,
And we have school resource officers.
Right.
Okay,
too,
well,
who
let's-
I want to go
communicate.
back to your
about that.
point about not being able to talk about this, because I think
Well,
in
that's
every,
changing, isn't it?
age,
Yeah.
there is something we can't talk about, whether it's tuberculosis or cancer or AIDS or whatever. And, once we can bring it out in the open and talk about drug addiction as a health crisis in the community, you can't turn on the radio these days without hearing people talk about the
no,
opiate
that's true.
addiction.
Or in
And the same goes for
paper.
mental illness. I think, as a society, we have seen the devastating effects of children, young adults, who have mental illnesses, who have gone on untreated, without resources, without supports. And, the results have been tragic. And that may have nothing to do with drugs. It may just be a psychiatric issue, but, regardless of that's why we're here.
Well, the mental illness part, I think I saw in my generation that alter. I mean, it used to be people they would not go to a therapist because, oh, what a shame and what
Exactly.
a stigma that will
People
be on
might
me.
say something.
And we seem like we're over that now, but that doesn't address the problem of people without means. How do they get help? And especially if it starts out as a person is young, and there's nothing available to them. So how does that occur now? What difference does this committee make?
Well, I beg to differ that we're over it. I don't think we're over it.
You don't
I
think we
think
are?
that, particularly, in the community where we live, you
It's
will
considered a stigma still, you feel?
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you see it, and you see people with drug use that will come and talk to me, and they will say, but please don't tell anybody.
Oh, the drug use, no, I would
But
agree with
also,
you. On
but
the
even
mental
mental
illness?
Mental illness,
illness,
too.
people will say, I'd rather
Really?
everybody not know about it
Right.
because they don't understand.
I guess
I mean,
my
how many
friends are very
suicides have
open
we
with-
had here? And we've had,
Oh,
a
yeah,
number
no,
of
no, oh, yeah,
suicides.
no,
And, if you talk to those families and the people around them, nobody was talking about it. And it's a tragedy that, we
So-
can't have a community that reaches out and supports these people and a place where they can feel safe discussing it.
And how do you do that? And how do you outreach, and how do people become aware of you? And
I'm glad
We
you
had a
asked.
We had a
We came
fantastic
with props.
program the other night.
We did.
Where we
We're-
had presentation, and there were members on the panel who, in their own families, had people who were addicted to drugs, who
Now, why
even
did I
died of
not know
drugs.
about
And they were
this?
coming out to talk about this. Because you don't watch Simsbury
That's right.
television.
You
It was on
obviously don't
Simsbury
pay attention
television.
on the,
I don't watch this show, for heaven's sakes, but I do watch.
But the fact is, you can
Oh,
watch
hey,
it
let's
on
get a shot on
SCTV.
that.
Yeah.
This was our program on the 24th. It was very well attended, and SCTV kindly produced it so that it's available
So
on
it will be
SCTV,
available
so
on
anybody
the
can
internet.
watch it.
Okay, wonderful. So I didn't mean to interrupt, Woody, go ahead.
No,
So-
but it's a fact that people are willing to talk about this and to say, we struggle with this issue in our family, and there is help, and these are the places I found help. And we share that so that people know that they're not alone in this difficult issue.
So is it correct to say that from your perspective, this is an outreach effort? I mean, both this show and
Yes.
the other one that's on SCTV, and
We give every student in middle school and high school, their families, one of these resource books.
oh, really?
So that
Now, that's been happening for how long?
three years now?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We've also mailed one of these to every resident in the town. It has a handy magnet on the back. You can put it on your thing. The goal for this was that we would have a brief synopsis of resources. We found that if somebody is in crisis and looking for something in an emergency, you don't want to start thumbing through the phone book. So it gives a few names. We even have a scan code on it,
Yeah?
find a place to call.
And we also have a website. Do you
and
want to
we
talk
have a
about the
website.
We have a
website?
wonderful website.
And what's that? The name, the address of the website?
Well, you go on the town website
Yeah.
and click on Community for Care.
And that's on the
Okay.
front page. If you go down to the bottom and hit
Yes.
Community
Okay.
for Clare, it's right.
Community for Care,
Yes.
CFC, Community for
Yes.
Care.
No, it's all spelled out. It's not CFC. It's
Well, and this is like a old people memory trick, and the way I can do that now is it's not KFC, which I would never, ever forget, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
No,
So
it's not that.
CFC,
Not that.
I can do that. Why don't you give an overview of like the whole range of programs? Like if I were to call you, whether I was my age or somebody else, and well, let me imagine a situation. Say that I was horribly depressed and constantly anxious and maybe not suicidal, but like barely able to function and didn't want to be a burden to my family and discuss that with them or whatever, but just didn't know where to go or what to do. So there's a number I would contact, and what
There
would
is.
happen to me
There are
then?
resources
Well,
here.
the first thing is you could call Simsbury Social Services and you would get, if it
So that'd
was
be Mickey?
during, yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the town of Simsbury actually provides 5 or 6 free
5.
counseling sessions to residents. She will refer you.
For family
For
counseling,
family
yeah.
counseling. She would refer you to an appropriate therapist.
So
if
Mickey
that was
doesn't do the counseling.
Oh, gosh, no.
No, it should be
She's,
tough. She'd say, Jerry, just get your act together.
Well, it's a resource that many people aren't aware of.
I was
And
not,
that
for sure.
particularly, as you mentioned, for people who might not have the means or insurance to cover such
Yeah.
therapies. They are available in a limited way, but at least to get you started, if you're having a crisis, you could call 211 if you were having a serious mental health crisis and get
Okay, so
referred by the state.
211, that's just
211.
local here.
No,
No, it's
that's
a
a
statewide
statewide
referral.
helpline, yes.
If,
But most
people-
importantly, if you're really in crisis and
You
you
would
think your life
well,
is
yeah.
in danger, you dial
You dial
911.
I was getting up to that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm glad the 2 and the 9 aren't right
Yes.
next to one another.
We also sponsor some programs in the schools, and as Lisa pointed out, we do not focus solely on the schools. We see ourselves as a whole community effort, but it is true that the schools are a place where we can concentrate some of our efforts regarding
And how does
drugs and
one do
addictions.
that?
There is a program coming up at the school on Monday called Tall Cop. We have a
Tall cop.
A tall cop. As you can see, he's very tall, and I'll actually hold this up again for the,
He's a nationally known speaker. He goes
Yes.
to all over the country speaking to students.
the program that is open to the public is in the evening. There's one during the day just for students. The public is not permitted at that one, but the one in the evening is open to the public. It's at 7 PM.
And that's just for grown-ups, actually,
That's just for
right?
adults, exactly.
Now, suppose I,
And we have other programs coming up too.
Oh,
We have
okay, well,
Chris
go ahead.
Herron, the NBA basketball star who was caught in a vicious cycle of addiction, and he is going to come and speak to the students about his life experience and his experience with drug addiction and recovery. So that is coming up March 29, 30? I would have to check the date on that.
I thought it was in April, but maybe.
The Community for Care will present its next program in much the same format as the one we just did, Discovering Better Options, but it will be based on geriatric psychology. It'll be mental illness and drug addiction in our senior population, which is actually more of an issue than you might suspect.
Well, you have quite a number of people who are wanting to stay in their own homes, wanting to be there, but they do have issues, particularly issues of dementia, and they want to be able to remain in their homes as long as possible. And families really want them to be able to do that, to have as much freedom as possible.
well, that's a very
But,
difficult one.
It's hard to do.
But there's also opioid abuse and depression and other mental illnesses that are more frequent in the senior population that are very difficult for caregivers and to detect and to deal with in the home. And we're having a psychiatrist who specializes in these issues come and hold another panel discussion. We're going to have providers of senior services here in town, again, maybe the police, to talk about what happens when a senior is in crisis.
Well, help me further. Say one of those, well, we can use me again if we want as an example, that I call. Now, you don't have staff to then counsel me, right? You would
No,
refer
We
the
don't,
community
we
for-
don't do
no,
that.
we
We're
don't do
all
Mickey.
volunteers.
No.
You would
We
refer
come from
me to
different
Mickey?
areas, and we try to make
No.
referrals to.
We're simply a resource.
Okay.
Our mission is to provide information and resources to the community.
And communication. It's really
Yeah.
to let people know where the resources are. These are not trained people in treatment. It's
Yeah,
not a
okay.
treatment group, it's a
No.
communication group.
We've talked about the mental and drug abuse. Is this program oriented to assist in other ways, the community?
The Community for Care as a whole, you mean?
Or poverty, or?
No, it's
Not for
focused
profit.
no,
It's
we're
certainly with
focused on,
mental health issues that
yeah.
includes everything from drug abuse, which you see from teenagers on up,
Mm-hmm.
to dementia and elderly people, suicide prevention.
Right.
All of these.
Which is going to be later.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, I do, in my profession, I work with people, well, we all age, and they age, or sometimes a new person, and by the ethics of my profession, I may not work with someone in isolation that I suspect has cognitive impairment, either because of medications, for pain, or just I'm concerned. So the recommendation is beyond a certain age, which some people feel offensive, require an adult child to be there or someone who is a close, trusted advisor of theirs. But it's difficult because sometimes you have to walk away from somebody who could use your help because they're offended and defensive and scared. And I'm not the most tactful person in the world, although I try to be. Well, maybe not
You
too
don't try.
hard. But sometimes the frankness of, I would love to work with you, and yes, we can help your situation, but we need to have someone present. And usually I've done some checking around so I know the names of the kids and who's close or whatever, and this could be one of those. But sometimes, and I think it's just absolutely frightening to them, but they strike out instead, and that's the end of the effort. You're
Right.
non gratis.
Because people want to hold on to their independence
Exactly.
and their
Well, of
freedom.
course,
That gives
and
their life
don't we all
meaning.
feel that way?
And that's important.
So
And we
wh-
need to be able to convince people that we are there to support them in that
Right.
effort and not to try to take anything
Okay,
away.
well,
That's one of the things we're going to talk about at this program is, what do you do when that happens in your family?
okay, we have only like a couple minutes left, so the things that you really want to punch that we haven't hit on? Is
Can I
it-
quickly tell you what
Yes,
the
you
other
may.
programs are? On June 8th, we're going to do mental health first aid for all ages. There's actually a program called Mental Health First Aid, which they've done some in the schools. We're going to bring it sort of in a condensed version to the public. And in September, we will be doing suicide prevention.
Okay, well, it's wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful that you all are stepping in and doing that. I find it so saddening, and especially in my case, working with people who, begin to wander away, and you get concerned, and can they care for themselves in their own home and that. And it takes an emotional toll, especially
does.
when they call, you try to give them information.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you
And
can
these
only
are
do so
issues
much.
that have always
Right.
been there, but I think we're talking about them more. We're free to talk
Right.
about that.
And makes
that's
a path to
Yes.
them more
Yes.
easy and with less stigma.
So we're hoping that on April 6th, we will have, some people, even such as yourself, or, caregivers, family members, and the people themselves, who might be concerned about what's going on in their own home. And I think you will find the presenters, intelligent and informative and caring and willing to listen and help in any
Well,
way
if
they
the
can.
two of you are any example, then I'm sure that will be so. Speaking of intelligence and articulation, isn't everybody out there glad that Lisa and I shut up today?
You know what?
Especially me?
It wasn't. This is an important committee, and I want to get the word out that it's there.
Okay, great. So I can't reach you, but Woody, Cheryl, thank you very
Jerry.
much.
Thank you for having us on.
And Queen of Town, see you next month.
Always.
And thank you. We'll see you all again next month on State of the Town.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.